What's going on, YouTube fam, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be discussing the decline of the US dollar against the Mexican peso. And we're going to be talking about why it's happening, should you be worried about it, and what this means for people who earn in US dollars and for the Mexican economy. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first thing is we can all see that slowly over time, the US dollar has been declining. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for it, and I'm not an economist, all right? A self-disclaimer, I'm not an economist, but I did some research to kind of understand basically how this works. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. It's, inflation in the United States, other countries deciding not to trade so heavily in the dollar, because as we know, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, and it has been for a long time. So different economies are getting better, bigger, and they're choosing not to use the US dollar as a reserve currency so much as they used to. Now, this doesn't mean that the dollar still isn't powerful. As we speak today, it is 17.15 pesos to the dollar. So if you're coming from the United States or a place that uses US dollars and may be more expensive than Mexico in terms of living expenses, then it's still going to be significantly less. For example, what I pay for this apartment and for most everything in Mexico on a day-to-day basis, utility bills, everything, I've made videos on all this, I can never get what I'm getting here in the United States. So right now for me, as I work my primary job and I'm making US dollars, it's still great. It's still great, and it's still very reasonable. There's a lot of chat has been going on lately about Mexico being expensive and it's not affordable anymore. But we also got to remember one thing as well. It depends on your income level, right? So the more that you make, obviously, the more comfort you're going to have because money's not a big issue. But if you're a middle class, upper middle class, it's still a good deal if you're deciding on moving to Mexico, if you're earning in dollars, right? For example, here in Guadalajara, now this could be in anywhere in Mexico. I've done some research around different areas, but you can get a two bathroom apartment in a decent area. In a building with security, $500 or more, and it could be less than that depending on the neighborhood you live. So nowhere in the U.S. can I think of right now, not even like the most sparsely populated states, you could do that. Like, I don't even think in Idaho you could get that. If you can, then somebody let me know if I'm wrong. But the way it's been going on, it seems that it's just so much better deal than the United States. And that's pretty much everyday life, food, rent, day-to-day utilities, clothing, depending on what kind you get, pretty much, most things, So if you were looking at if you were looking at the decline of the dollar against the Mexico and a deciding factor of not coming here, now, of course, that's your prerogative. But one thing I have to say is you're still going to get a lot more value here with the US dollar, despite this decline in the value against the peso. Now, does this mean it's going to be like this forever? No, it could very well raise up. What we've seen has been a little bit volatile. This is the lowest we've seen it in years, honestly. And, it could be frustrating for some of us who are trying to squeeze every little bit of that strength of the dollar against the peso, out of it. But there's still value here in Mexico. There's still... if you're coming from, even if you don't make dollars, if you're coming from a first world country, especially like Western Europe, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, even Japan and Singapore, where the cost of living is higher, you're going to find the rates super affordable. It's just in a very affordable place. Of course, there is a lot of fancy stuff going on in Mexico, fancy neighborhoods, millionaires all over the place. This is by no means a third world country or like everybody is just living on some, cheap rent and stuff like that. You got people out here doing it big, going to the fanciest restaurants and things like that. But it's very easy to find affordable living here. And as I showed you in my other videos before, the same thing. So what does this mean for people with the dollar? This just means that you economize a little bit more, but just know that you're still getting worth. Now, it depends on what your budget is. It depends on what you're looking for. In my opinion, I still think it's worth living in Mexico, and I wouldn't want to leave until I start seeing prices go to New York, San Francisco levels, like in the U.S. right now, and it's nowhere near that. So long as, I love this country, don't get me wrong, but also part of it is being close to the U.S., also, earning in dollars and having a lifestyle, a better lifestyle that doesn't break my bank, that I don't have to work two jobs to be able to afford. I don't have to, be back in New York City where I was, with roommates, you know what I mean? Been there, done that. I'm good. No more of that for me. But what this means is just that you're not getting as much value, but you're still getting the value for your United States dollar, okay? That's what that means essentially for people earning in dollars. What does that mean for Mexicans? Well, that means the economy is getting better, and that means now, there's going to be more job opportunities for more Mexicans. The peso strengthening on the international market. That's a fantastic thing for the Mexican economy, who they're the number 15 economy in the world. There's a lot of people think that Mexico is just some backwards place. I mean, I've seen all kinds of crazy comments of people saying, how, things like here, and yes, it has problems like everywhere else, but Mexico is an industrialized country. And, when you see these poverty, like clips of this and articles and pictures, yes, I mean, United States has this. Flint, Michigan, Detroit, Southside Chicago, parts of Miami, New York City, Los Angeles, everywhere. Every country has its great and its not so great, all right? But what I can tell you is that the economy is great here in Mexico, and this is better for the Mexican people, for which I'm thankful of, because the people here are hard workers. And, Mexico, they're very smart. They stayed open during the whole pandemic, got all that tourist money and wide open, and, they're flourishing, and I think that's part of it. And more people are investing here in Mexico as well. So there's a lot of different, like I said, I'm not an economist, but those are just a couple of things that I know of that are in terms of the effect that it has on Mexicans and us who make dollars. So to make a long story short, I do believe that you shouldn't be worried about it. Just if you want to super minimize, like depending on your income level, just spend just a little bit less. So let's say if you're here in Mexico right now and your grocery bill for you as a single person is maybe, 1,200 pesos for 1 week. Maybe you could tweak a couple of things so you could spend maybe like 900 or 1,000 and then keep that extra 200 and put it to the side. It's very easy to do that here in Mexico because food is very affordable. You can buy it from the markets, from the independent vendors. I mean, there's so many options for you, especially to survive and eat, water, food, and all the basic, food and everything that we need to survive is cheap here, okay? It's very affordable, rather. I want to say that. So the whole thing about it cheap, expensive, and all stuff like this, I'm going to go in the middle of affordable because everybody has a different income level and a different perception of what's this and what's that. All right. So long story short, don't be worried about it. If you feel that you need to economize a little bit more, that is also a good thing to do. And you're still going to have more value. Trust me, a lot more value than you can imagine. If you've never been to Mexico and you're going to be coming for your first time using US dollars, you're going to be surprised. And even in the bigger cities, how affordable it is to have a meal in a restaurant, go have some drinks and, buy a week's worth of groceries and spend like 50 US dollars. I mean, it's still a great value and it's still a great country. Okay. So don't let that deter you. You may have to do a little bit of extra savings depending on how, you manage things, but I wouldn't be worried about the decline of the dollar right now. Of course, keep your eye on it, but until it drops to ridiculous levels, I think the value's still going to be there, okay? And to the Mexican people, salute, because you all out there are getting a better economy and more opportunities. So it's, it's more of a win for the Mexicans, and some of us are like, my dollar's not going so far. It's all good. The local people are flourishing, and that's a very important part of it. So don't worry, your dollar still carries you pretty far here. And for the foreseeable future, all the information that I researched, I don't see it really dipping to drastic levels, okay? So thank you all for tuning in to this video. I appreciate all of y'all. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe. I appreciate everybody who comes on here and takes the time to watch. Hitting the like, leaving comments. I'll always answer your comments. And thank you again, you all. Until the next video, I'll catch you later. Peace.